the threat. Now, what we know is that between 93 and 94% of all the accidents occur why? Because drivers are not doing what they're supposed to do. We can look at the statistics and see that there are certain elements that in their behavior are causing the accidents. So that's what we need to spend our time on. That's what we need to have a sustainable, long-term solution to try to reduce the crashes. And that's exactly what Stop the Threat is. A sustainable enforcement strategy designed to take place in every area of the state. It'll occur in every MCCD region and every GSP troop. The goal, through education, outreach, aggressive traffic enforcement strategy, is to simply provide for a safer transportation environment for all of our citizens and all of the nation's motorists. Why is that? If you're going to Florida on vacation and you're from anywhere in the United States, where do you got to go through to get there? The state of Georgia. So what we do not only impacts the folks that live here, but it impacts folks from all over the nation. Our officers and troopers will target for enforcement those commercial motor vehicles and passenger cars who operate unsafely and endanger lives. What causes the problems? Distracted driving kills. Impaired driving kills. Excessive speed kills. Tailgating other motorists kills. Any driver of any vehicle found operating violating such laws would be held accountable in this state. The Department of Public Safety will strategically deploy officers and troopers in highly visible marked patrol vehicles in both high crash corridors and high crash rural route areas of the state during periods that crashes involving commercial motor vehicles and passenger motor vehicles commonly occur. So whatever time of day, whatever day of week, whatever day of the month, those are the times that we're going to target with our enforcement. Troopers and officers shall focus their enforcement efforts on crash causation factors, speeding, distracted driving, to include texting and cell phones. Let's pause for just a minute right there. This thing right here is killing folks. We all agree? How many times do we go down the roadway and we see somebody preoccupied with something in their lap? If they're looking at their lap for whatever it is, a hamburger, a magazine, makeup, who knows what it is? We know what it is. We know exactly what's causing the problem. This is killing folks. This is a huge problem and one that we're going to target in this initiative. Following too closely, driving while impaired, including being fatigued. Fatigue is a huge issue that, if you look at the studies, is almost as big as a problem of driving under the influence. Improper lane changes and improper lane usage, seatbelt infractions, and let's pause there for just a minute. Seatbelt infractions. Of all the work that you've done, of all the seatbelt citations that you've written, 50% of the folks that are involved in accidents at nighttime, 50% of them are dying because they're not wearing their seatbelt. So when you drive by that sign in small town Georgia that says 92% seatbelt usage, it must be in the sunshine at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because at nighttime that's not what happens. That's not what we're seeing, right? So if we know it, that's what we got to do. We got to spend time on that issue, specifically nighttime seatbelt enforcement. And then, lastly, the issue why this place was built, for mechanical and structural defects on CMVs. Officers and troopers shall conduct a total of 108 Stop the Threat events statewide during this fiscal year. Think about that. 108. That equates to an average of 9 events per month in each region and troop. Maximum availability of manpower for each MCCD region and GSP troop will be allocated to each event. Each event will be for consecutive 3-day periods. There's a couple of people that are here that I'd like to bring to your attention. The first I've already mentioned, and that's Harris Blackwood. Beyond his professional job, Harris is a friend, a personal friend, a friend to all law enforcement. He's dedicated himself both personally and professionally to his job. Harris, you're a breath of fresh air, brother. The next is Clay Green. Clay is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administrator for this area. He's a former peace officer himself. He's done the job, y'all. He knows what you do on and off the road. Clay, thank you for being here. And the next is Ed Crow of the Georgia Motor Trucking Association. Because part of what we have to do is have a good relationship with the associations that truckers are involved in. That education piece, that piece that where we have a good relationship helps us in getting the point across and getting the information out to their drivers. Because what we know when we deal specifically with commercial motor vehicles, for the most part, all of them are professional drivers for the most part, right? They try their best to do their job, to stay within the law. Who we're looking for is the folks that don't. And the associations are supporting us to make sure that those unsafe drivers are who we get off the roadway. Thanks to each of you for your continued support of the Department of Public Safety and your commitment to increase commercial vehicle safety and passenger vehicle safety in Georgia. Without your support and partnership, our highway safety efforts would be less than fruitful and productive. I'd like to also thank our local police and sheriff's departments for the support of the Department of Public Safety and for highway traffic safety that they're involved in. When you think of how many peace officers that we have in this state, almost 59,000 of them, and when you think about the number that are actually involved in traffic enforcement, it's very small. Why? Because they're driven by calls for service. When a citizen picks up the telephone, they want a police officer and they want them now. So we know that we've got certain partners within local law enforcement that pay particular attention to ensure that either they have a traffic safety unit or it's a priority of those folks answering calls that when they're not, they're out on the roadway involved in that effort. We can't thank them enough. Our basic necessity of life, such as food, clothing, and shelter, are at some point transported by a truck through Georgia. I've already mentioned that the overall percentage of commercial vehicles and commercial carriers are professional and drive with safety with the motoring public in mind. When they think about a state that we live in, how does all that stuff get to the Publix and Kroger? How does all that stuff we pull off the shelf at Walmart get here? Well, it's brought here by a truck driver. They do a great job and they provide a great service. So the initiative is not to pick on the commercial trucking driver. The point of the initiative is to look for those behaviors that cause accidents. There are those who won't stop, and so therefore we're looking to stop the threat that they impose. It's designed to target those drivers that are operating their vehicles in an inappropriate manner. At this time, I'd like to ask Harris Blackwood if he'd come forward for a few comments. "35 years ago, an organization called Mothers Against Drunk Driving began their efforts, and they made drinking and driving an unacceptable behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to start not yesterday, but a long time ago, a few weeks ago, months ago, but today. Let's make texting and driving an unacceptable behavior. And you know what's so ridiculous about it is that too many people get mad because somebody in front of them is texting and driving, and then 10 minutes later they're going to be doing it themselves. Put down the phones. The other thing that I don't understand, and we have had great response to our plea for people to use their seatbelts, particularly their young children. But ladies and gentlemen, 60% of the people who've been killed on the roads this year were not wearing seatbelts. And we can't say for certain in every case, but many of those lives could have been saved. Most of the increased number of vehicles this year were vehicles involved in a single vehicle crash leaving the roadway, and we know that's because of distraction of one kind or another. We've got to set an example. Parents, you've got to set an example for your children. And all drivers have got to set an example on the road, and that is
Put down the phone, buckle your seatbelt, drive carefully. We can have a safe holiday season in this state. We can do that. And I applaud my friend Colonel Mark McDonough and the men and women of the Georgia State Patrol and the Motor Carrier Compliance Division and law enforcement officers all over the state who will dedicate themselves this year to making this a safer year. It's been a terrible year. We're 15% ahead of last year right now. We're on track with about 2007. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, we applaud you today, Colonel. We thank you, and we join hands with you in making this a safe remaining 2 months for the people of this state. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Harris. Ed Crowell of the Georgia Motor Trucking Association. Ed, would you like to say a few words?
Colonel, thank you for the opportunity. And I want to start by thanking the men and women of the Department of Public Safety for all they do. And I have to say, especially the Motor Carrier Compliance Division, because we spend most of our time interacting with them, and we really appreciate the professionalism they bring to everything they do. The short answer for what we want to say about this program is quite simply, it's about time, and thank you for doing it. You know, Colonel, you said just about everything in terms of what the industry means and what the industry does for the people of the state of Georgia, but that should never be at the cost of safety. There's not a single trucker that should be out there doing their job thinking that safety is anything other than the very first responsibility they have. We share our workplace, we share our road, we share our roads with people who are not as good drivers as we are, and we need to always be the professionals. So we really appreciate this effort. There's always calls for new laws, calls for changes. What we need and what statistics show work is more enforcement on the road system. And that is what this program is doing. And Colonel, not just these 2 months, I know you're going on for the rest of the year. We will be supporting you for the rest of the year. You know, you said it right. One of the biggest problems we have is this thing right here. We all love them. They're great tools. They're great toys. They're not supposed to be in constant use. You know, most of us were taught it's rude, it's disrespectful to pull it out at the dinner table. Well, it's irresponsible and deadly to pull it out in the car. You heard it from Director Blackwood, you heard it from the Colonel. This should not be involved in driving. When you're driving, drive. The Department of Transportation tells us that 60% of there's been a 60% increase in single vehicle fatal accidents in this state this year. Single vehicle fatal accidents, people who couldn't keep their car on the road. They hit a tree, they hit a bridge, they drove in a river, they did something, and you've heard it right, they did something because they were doing something else. We can't have that happen in cars, and we can't have it happen in commercial motor vehicles. So please know you have our full support as an industry. We really appreciate what you do day in and day out, and we will be there supporting you throughout this entire program. Thank you.
Last but not least, there's our representative from the federal government. You know, we hear that the feds are here to help us. Well, Clay is a person that actually does help us. Great guy, great representative from the federal government. Clay, you want to say a few words?
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Georgia Division Administrator Clinton Seymour, who could not be here today in Washington, he's in Washington. We are very pleased and honored to be here at this event hosted by the Georgia Department of Public Safety and Colonel McDonough. We applaud Colonel McDonough, his leadership, his staff's continued efforts to make the roadways safer in Georgia. The Department of Public Safety team, the Motor Carrier Compliance Division, Georgia State Patrol, their support staff, have all worked tirelessly and with great dedication and passion to ensure that every person makes it home at night, whether they're a citizen of the state of Georgia or whether they're just passing through. We're very proud to partner with the Department of Public Safety on their new safety initiative, Stop the Threat, as we have in so many other events in the past. Recently, with Operation Safe Drive on I-95. I'm proud to announce that during the previous waves of Operation Safe Drive on I-95, there were 0 fatal crashes in Georgia during these initiatives. On I-95, which is a roadway that statistically represents one of the highest crash rates on a national level, from Maine to Florida, based on the enforcement efforts by the Georgia Department of Public Safety and the states they partner with. The Department of Public Safety has commonly strategically mapped and planned numerous events just like this one. Now they've stepped up their efforts to even further ensure a focused and sustainable series of safety events statewide, not just a generalized area, but on a statewide basis, which will reduce the number of commercial motor vehicle related crashes. We at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration believe that these events, these partnerships, Georgia Motor Trucking Association, Governor's Office of Highway Safety, local law enforcement, the Department of Public Safety, it shows the commitment by the Georgia Department of Public Safety and evidences their willingness and their commitment to the citizens of the state of Georgia to reduce commercial motor vehicle crashes, to target those drivers with those unsafe behaviors and those roadways at the highest risk of having a commercial vehicle crash. And we're very proud to partner with you, and Colonel, we appreciate the opportunity to be here today, sir. Thank you, sir.
What's the issue? Driver behavior. What's the solution? A sustained enforcement campaign to stop the threat, and the threat being driver behavior. Y'all, thank you for being here. Last thing I want to point out, all the officers that you see here are working in an environment like none other. We've all heard it over the past couple of months. It's a tough time to be a police officer, isn't it? Well, we still have the same challenge that we've had before. Regardless of the environment, what you do saves lives. Thank you for what you do. Happy Thanksgiving. For the press that's been here, I'll be happy to get with you individually and answer any questions that you might have. Y'all, thank you very much.